The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
It's Thursday, the first day of June, 2023. Welcome to Bermuda's Daily Talk Show. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Maddox Wells and Lindos. I'm Jamal Hartman. He's Larry Marshall Jr. and Maya Palacio will be with us in a bit to bring you the latest in her news break brought to you by People's Pharmacy. Happy Thursday, good brother.
Happy Thursday. Happy June 1st, a new month. I know our colleague, Sister Sherry, she's out sending messages early, reminding people of a certain summer day.
Oh, what? National Heroes Day this month. 1st of June does
Father's Day.
Father's Day, yep. It does represent hurricane season. It's
Yes.
Day, yep. The Queen's birthday. I don't know what she's talking
The first day of summer.
First day of summer, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of June's an interesting month. Yeah, thank you for the reminder, Sister Sherry. We appreciate you sending us messages. And good morning to you, Marcia, Robin, Patrice Bradshaw, and what's Letha, Miss Palacio? Did I pronounce that right? Letha? What's that? You educate me now. You know I'm not.
Yeah, I'm confused also.
You know she's a deep sister. She's got it. Good morning to you, Sister Karen Simmons. So look, folks, hurricanes. You read so real quickly before we jump. Oh, there you go. Summer solstice. Yeah, I knew it was something intelligent, something for the intellectuals. You know, I'm not one of those. Thank you so much, Madam Palacio. So, Barb, you live on a hill, right? So hurricane winds, you got them a bit extra. Well, like this is not a season you look forward to, huh?
Yeah, no. I mean, I see people talk about hurricane parties, and it's not that serious. That don't go on up. It's we have a plan, the boards, the drilling, the what to do, like what seasons, but we're grateful when they pass us by because it's no fun being up on this hill for hurricane season.
Yeah, no. I it's always interesting to me. I think I know you all think I'm grumpy and a party pooper, but I've never ever understood the idea of like wanting a hurricane to calm hurricane parties and stuff like that. I know just relax, let your hair down, you all say to me, but I don't know, something about hurricanes, Mother Nature, the wrath of Mother Nature is just, people lose, lives, lose homes, possessions, and I'm not talking about material possessions. Some things, people have lost in hurricanes, some, things that have been passed on to generations, families, and so on. So anyway, it is hurricane season. Just hope that everyone is able to take precautions and prepare properly for the season. But greetings, everyone. And before we get into it, we do have a guest coming today. We want to and thank you for making us part of your daily routine. We have the chairman of the Road Safety Council, Dennis Lister III, who will be joining us on the show today. The daily players are named that place, so Larry's pretty good at this. Also, don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. But we want to jump right into it because we have a very serious conversation. I mean, most of them are serious, as you all think I'm not fun, but serious conversation, and it's a conversation that I think is long overdue. We haven't had it in this context on the show before, and I'm just going to throw the question out. But before we get into it, I know today is a very hard day for a lot of people in the community, the
Yeah.
sporting community, PHC family, and loved ones, friends of the late Marco Warren, who, his service is today. And, we don't know much outside of what's been released. Obviously, the perpetrator or perpetrators have not been caught for whatever reason. Whoever's responsible for his untimely passing. But we know, and I've said it on this show before, we have a cultural problem in Bermuda. We have a problem. Um, I don't remove myself. Look, we all have flaws. I have more flaws than most people, and I'm very upfront and honest about my shortcomings. I mean, and don't. That's not time for a short joke. I'm being very serious, right? We all have, some sort of flaws. None of us is perfect, but we all have choices where we can live better. We have the opportunity to make decisions, and today I think it's only right to have a discussion about substances in Bermuda, substance use and substance abuse. Let me make this clear. We've had experts on this show who have discussed this numerous times. Today, we want to have a discussion amongst ourselves to see many of us may not have used, some of us may have used, some of us have family members, some of us may have friends or colleagues. But the question of the morning is, how can we create a more sober community? How can we create a more sober community? The question.
Yeah. I think sometimes, we come up with some topics for discussion, and as a host, it really makes you reflect. I often, this topic made me go back and look with my relationship with substance, which would be alcohol. I've never done anything else other than that. Um, you know, I too, like Jamal, have had shortcomings with it. Just being an honest moment. I'm not necessarily as out front with it as he is, but when you look back, I think, taking my first drink at around 13, 14, that kind of set a path for things that was to kind of come. And statistics show that if you begin to drink at an earlier age, you're more likely to get in trouble with it. So it happened with me. I had a DUI at 16. I'm just putting it out there. So I'm not no saint when it comes to that. I think, and during it out there, I grew up in a household where there was no alcohol. I've never seen my parents drink at all. I saw extended family drink, and it was drilled that, you know, be very careful with alcohol and stuff. And, keeping it real, my father has a history with alcohol issues also. I'm sure he won't mind me sharing that. Uh, then we come to this sober society and whatnot. I think, we was talking backstage with Maya. It's growing up. It's just I can't wait to do it. I can't wait to do it. I can't wait to do it. And I've heard that from people who didn't come in similar situations like myself
Mhm.
to people like myself. And we both have a same thing in common where it's almost we can't wait till we're able to because we feel like we are adult when we're able to have a drink.
Mhm.
And I think that is part of a huge problem when we're looking at getting a more sober community. And I don't know necessarily how we can address that. I
Mhm.
myself do think that we need to raise the limit to 21.
Mhm.
I've always said that. It just seems at 18, you're still so fragile, young, and whatnot, and you're able to make an adult decision. No, of course, if you're 18, you still get access to it like you would be able to if you're 14 or 16, but it shouldn't be so readily available.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think education. I think with all the mental health experts we've had on, I think trauma plays a role.
Yeah.
When I think of this question, how can we create a more sober community? I think it actually goes deeper. We have to ask ourselves what's happening before the substance um, is actually there. Some people, it's because it's accessible, right? You spoke about young age, children. It's accessible. It's in their house, right? So they think it's cool. They want to, be cool. They want to experience and do what they see adults doing. There's other people who may turn to it because of other things. It helps them deal with or cope with whatever else is going on in their lives. We just had a mental health expert on yesterday, Kelly Madeira. She spoke of the most prevalent type of mental issues in Bermuda or come from, what was it? Sexual abuse, right? That's an issue. People who may have been sexually abused in our community, not having we spoke about the insurance, right? How they treat, for physical insurance, you have the opportunity and it's covered, but for mental, it's not. I think there's so much trauma in our community, so much undealt with trauma based on the conversations we have with experts on this show, that I believe that can lead to it. And then there's the part where everyone's different. I smoke about 4 cigars a year, right? That's my choice. I'm not addicted to tobacco, but there are people who might smoke one and just becomes a chain thing. So all of us respond to things differently based on what the period we're in our lives, based on, our ability to be disciplined. It's so many things. And again, I celebrate the fact that this year will be 4 years since I've had an alcoholic beverage. And I honestly don't miss it at this point. In the beginning, you're like, man, I'm going to miss out on all the fun. I'm going to miss this. Honestly, folks, you don't miss the feeling. I'm going to tell you one thing. You don't miss the feeling. And the time I realized that, so it was like July that I quit. And then I went to Turks and Caicos in September, my birthday month. And you're at the bar and you realize, oh, I can get a virgin daiquiri. I can get a virgin mojito. And you still get the same flavor without that feeling. So to answer the question, how can we create a more sober society, a community? One of the things that we tend to do in Bermuda, we celebrate alcohol, with everything. Like it's a part of every celebration, right? A christening, right? Well, let's start a baby shower. There's alcohol. A christening. There's alcohol. First birthday. There's alcohol, right? Every occasion is like we
promotion,
sort of substance. Promotions, right? It's wine. It's a bottle. There's nothing wrong with it. Let me be honest. I'm not. This is not to crap on it. I think the problem is when it becomes. It takes over our culture. I said a couple of weeks ago, we've literally allowed alcohol to define us, to define our culture. It shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be like that. Let's go to the comments. Charles H. Jefferson II, he says, make not drinking cool. Celebrate those who don't drink or those who drink responsibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Palacio. She says, congratulations. I'm not sure which she's saying that to, but Sherry Vanderpool says, we need to not make it the solution. You had a bad day, have a drink, by relationship ends, have a drink.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Karen Simmons goes on, let's address trauma in the community that could lead to people abusing substances, raise the age of consumption, don't continue to encourage the use of alcohol at every occasion. Yeah.
I like what she's saying. Again, that's what I agree with that. That first, I agree with all she said, but the first sentence, the trauma. We have some serious trauma in our community, and it has to be addressed.
So one of the things that we haven't mentioned is we use it so much as a coping mechanism, right? And if we're talking about we going through these situations, we're using it to kind of help us to get through some things. I know for myself, I stopped, like I never drank in college and whatnot, and I kind of got frustrated post college when the injuries came and whatnot, and all that was left was to party, and party came with the drinking. And each time I try to make a comeback, I would stop. And then, of course, I got injured again. It came with more partying. So I think we just have to kind of figure out better coping skills also. We can talk about trauma and whatnot, but if we're just going to that death, celebration, there's so many different things that we use, and we're not really teaching proper coping skills for things that negatively impact us.
I like you said that, because we're not teaching people at young ages how to deal with loss. We're not teaching them how to deal with setbacks, right? Disappointment. I agree with that. I didn't even think of that. Misha Fabla says, reduce economic disparity. This plays a role. This plays a role. We cannot, there was a saying back in the day, and I don't know any statistics on this, but I know there was a saying in the US that if you looked in every black neighborhood, there were liquor stores on every corner, right? I remember that said all the time, they would strategically put them there. Look, there's various substances that people abuse, and a lot of it comes down to economic disparity. A lot of it comes down to poverty.
Yeah.
We can't ignore that. There's a lot of trauma in many cases. We can't ignore that. But what are some solutions? What are some more solutions? How can we create a more sober community? I'm a believer that education is the solution to most of the problems that exist in our community. I think we need to educate people on substances and not, back when I was in school, it was always a say no to drugs. That didn't work for me. Now, I ain't never done anything, but it didn't work for me because I didn't even understand what drugs were at the time for you to be telling me to say no to them. You didn't educate me on what they were.
Yeah. I heard you say that, but let's not forget we have a large part of the people who consume alcohol, and well, let's not say, because a large part of people who consume alcohol don't abuse it or have issues. However, people that have issues with it, it's what they want to do.
Mhm.
They want to do this. So how are we telling people, hey, this isn't what you should be doing or whatnot? You got what I'm saying? It's like behaviors are going to be there because this is a want, and people's going to do what they want.
But I feel that just now I wasn't speaking to alcohol, folks. I was speaking to the greater
Anything, yes.
thing. And I don't want us to just think of alcohol this morning.
Yes,
I think
yes,
alcohol
agreed.
is very easy for us. We don't really speak about the amount of things that are happening outside of alcohol, but obviously alcohol is one of the biggest contributors. And I'm not going to tell the audience not to respond, because I think, truthfully, Larry, as you just said, alcohol is the number one substance of use, not abuse, folks, but of use for many people in Bermuda for various reasons. So let's go through some comments. Charles H. Jefferson II says, I think having alcohol at children's functions, such as kids' birthday party, christenings, or graduations parties, is irresponsible. Well, I've told you this story, and I'll say it publicly again. I was a mentor in the Big Brothers program in one of the states I used to live in. And, I would go to drop him off or pick him up from his home, and there was always a party, right? Always a party at the house. And, one time I stayed, and they were offering me, what's it? Night train? Is that a night train, right? I can't drink in front of the child that I'm mentoring. You got what I'm saying? But it's just, for me, that's what made me uneasy about drinking around children. That right there made me so uneasy about it. So I completely agree. But I mean, do you feel different about that, Larry?
No, I completely agree. I know my time during the school, I like, if people was at a football game or dating, I just would not. I was a club person. Jamal, you was an after work person. You know what I mean? So I would never being in that space around children. That was a no for me. So I completely agree. That's where I kind of am at with that.
Indeed. Manuela John says, raising the age of consumption is not a deterrent when the poison is still available and visible. Yes, I agree. I agree with that. And I guess I would disagree with Larry and Karen earlier. I only disagree because I think people use it because it's accessible. And I think, I always was a proponent of legalizing marijuana for a reason, because I said, well, the reason, think about college, right? Think about college. We go to college. So much underage drinking goes on in college. You see people, and I'm like, wow. But as soon as they become legal, the drill is not there anymore, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm not quite. I get the point of why raising it may make sense. I'm just not quite sure if it will, bring us a solution. Farah Palacio says Bermuda is lacking when it comes to mental and emotional health and support, which leads to abuse, substance abuse. Yeah.
And I would, to add on to Farah's comment, I was also thinking, do we have adequate facilities in Bermuda to assist those who are struggling with addictions? Back to the comments. There has to be education about how to take control of the body. Once we take control of this body vehicle, we can take more control of the vehicles we drive from Bermuda evolve.
Mm. Aaron Smith says alcohol is seen as a coping mechanism. People need to understand it's a depressant. So using it to make a bad situation better only puts putting the person in a worse off situation. We need to find a better way to celebrate events. Indeed, Aaron, I concur. I definitely agree. Laverne Tucker says, I've been to celebrations where there was no alcohol and people would comment, is this kiddie party so sad? Here's the thing. I've been that disrespectful person. Folks, again, I'm not without flaws. I have been that disrespectful person where I've gone to a dry wedding and I've been given a water bottle with vodka in it. I've been that person. And when I think back about that, I'm ashamed of it because, folks, I didn't need alcohol. I didn't, it was there and it was a thrill to have it and access to it. And that's what I'm saying, like, use me as an example of how embarrassing when you think back about that, actually how embarrassing that is. Think about that. Farah Palacio says, Bermuda has a major drug problem, but a lot of people would rather not say anything because we like to keep an image.
Yeah, I would agree. Aaron Smith says we need more education. People need to know how substances affect the mind and body, both in the short and long term. Yeah.
Indeed. It's an interesting one. I look, at the end of the day, I don't know necessarily the answers. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not an expert. I'm a human being who has again, I smoke a cigar every now and then. I've had 2 this year, Vegas, and the other day celebrating my Florida Panthers. Hopefully I can have one more to celebrate a Stanley Cup. My coping mechanism is I eat potato chips every day, right? But that's no better, folks. And the reason I say it's no better, and you all may say, oh, that's no comparison to drugs. Hey, people, no one eats potato chips every day. That's a bad habit. It's not good for you. And look, addictions are not just drugs.
Yeah.
And we need to be very, very clear about this here. Yeah. And I used to say if I went for an evaluation, they wouldn't say, look, you're dealing with something and this is a coping mechanism. Again, I'm not the expert. Renee says, I believe in some cases it's genetic. Some people simply cannot absorb alcohol in their system. However, it's a craving for them that can lead to poisoning to their blood. Yes.
I wouldn't argue against that.
Yeah, I'm not the doctor here, but I believe it. And yes, Sam Cat Place, this is it. Addiction is addiction. And this is why I just want to remind people, like, these conversations are not about judgment. These are conversations where us, the hosts, are being vulnerable. Larry mentioned his father, and my father would not mind me telling you, when I was a child, my father drank, and he drank. He's been sober for about 30 years now, right? Both our fathers, 30, 40 years. So it's not like we are, we had those examples before us. My mother was never a drinker, other drugs, there may have been usage throughout my family, but not close to me. Right. So I was not necessarily there, but I will say I was never educated to understand what drug use was. I wasn't. All I remember, Larry, you may be different from me, right? But all I remember were the Say No to Drugs campaigns. That's all I remember.
Yeah, I had it a bit different. I know my daddy was on, about stuff, and it was mainly alcohol use and abuse. But I had other, I was able to see other family members to other things too. I wasn't kind of, we saw stuff happen. I think sometimes we often say with our kids these days, we're able to shelter them a bit more. But, when we walked in from school or we played, you kind of knew what the smell was that was different. You know what I mean? I think it was just something that you kind of knew that was going on. But the campaigns I do remember. And again, telling somebody to just say no didn't really do nothing.
It was different back then, and he's right. Like, you're walking, I went to Prospect Primary, so walking past Evan Chirac, you smelt stuff. And one thing I will say, and this is different, even in my neighborhood, right, up St. Monica's Road, walking home, what was different then than now is the people who were using hid it from children.
They did.
They hid it from us, meaning you might smell something, you never saw them out openly doing it. And I'm not saying that made them any better, but what I am saying is that, goes back to what we said about drinking around children and, substance around children. They were discreet. There was a certain level of respect back then that existed versus today. Karen Simmons says education should also be specific to demographics, how substance abuse affects males/females along racial constructs. Absolutely, absolutely, Karen. I absolutely agree with you. All right, bring Maya in.
Maya's itching to get in there.
Yes, it's time for the Daily Hour News Break. Thank you all so much for the discussion. Obviously, we have the road safety chairman coming up, and we'll be talking about it's a lot going on our roads. We had a lot of rain. The roads, the conditions have not been any better. So we've been losing people. We've had the collisions haven't been. Maya has done an excellent job in her research and reporting in the terms of the collisions. But let's bring Maya Palacio in for the Daily Hour News Break, and just want to get her opinion on how we can create a more sober Bermuda.
Good morning. Good morning.
Greetings. You started there. I was like,
Yep.
is she a popsicle? Is she frozen?
I didn't start. I was waiting for you to say something.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. How you doing, Maya?
I'm feeling okay.
Oh, that's a great thing. That's a great thing. So we've been talking about this morning. More or less, not just use but abuse of different things. I don't have the answers. I might have some ideas. And I think that's the purpose of the conversation, for all of us to come up with some ideas of how we can create a more sober community. But do you have any, input on this?
Well, I might be speaking a little bit prematurely here because I have an interview actually tomorrow with Roxanne Christopher, and she used to be, I'm just going to look because I didn't expect to actually say this today, but she used to be the road safety officer in 2009. She created Project Wide in 1999 and 2000, also implemented the mandatory seatbelt. So she's done a lot when it comes to road safety. She no longer is a part of the road safety official sector and now works in, I believe, the Water Safety Council now. But a conversation we had briefly the other day was about a conversation that might need to be started on the island about bartenders and ownerships of those bars taking accountability for accidents that happen after someone has been to their facilities. Or, if a bartender has given someone too many drinks, then that they should cut them off, but things like that. And then that person goes out, gets in an accident, that the bar and the ownership should take some ownership to that. So that was a conversation that we actually had about like whether or not that should be a discussion.
Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. Liability. Yeah. All right. Well, looking forward to hearing more of that conversation. And I'm going to, put my ignorance out there. I had no idea we had a water safety council.
I didn't either. Today I spoke with her.
No.
It's not ignorance. I was like, well, there would be one.
Right? The more you know.
Yeah.
This is what we're here for. All right. What you got for us today?
Well, good morning, everyone. This is the Daily Hour News Break brought to you by People's Pharmacy. And starting out the news this morning, a report from the Gazette, Jawan Roberts, who was caught with a loaded gun during cup match in 2021, has been sentenced to 17 years in prison. Jawan Roberts, who is 31, was found guilty last week of possessing a firearm and ammunition in the incident in July 31st of 2021. He had also admitted to charges of possessing more than 20 grams of cannabis and drug equipment, specifically a scale, before the start of the trial. Judge Warren Wolf said it was mind-boggling and mind-numbing that Roberts had been convicted of a second firearm-related offense after spending 3 years behind bars for a series of armed robberies.
Well, I don't remember that, but just hope that, there's more. And anything that's out there that can harm the community, I'm happy to know it's off the streets. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
And next up in the news, the Bermuda national women's field hockey team, as you might have saw in a report yesterday, that's in my report of my story, where Mrs. Warren was honored with a jersey from the Cal Bears. Well, the Cal Bears division team, which is a Division I team, they have flown to Bermuda to help the Bermuda national squad team actually prepare for the CAC games, which is happening later this month. Now, the coach of the Cal Bears said that Bermuda's coach or national coach right now, Coven Moodley, is doing a great job despite the fact that Bermuda lost 7-0 last 2 nights ago. So I got to speak with the goalkeeper of Bermuda, who this will be her very first CAC games, and whether or not how she feels about the upcoming games.
I'm excited. I'm a little nervous. I've just come from away from not playing for like 5 months, which is quite scary. I kind of got back and I was like, oh, I've lost my groove. But I think these games have really showed that I've not lost anything and I'm still prepared and I'm learning a lot from and regaining my skills, which I think is really good. And I'm really excited to play internationally and I'm just super pumped.
I think I like her.
Christina's a really great goalkeeper. She did well in the CAC qualifiers in 2022. I know these last few games for the team have been quite challenging. Again, Cal Bears is a Division I university team. They get to scout worldwide, so they have some highly skilled players from Australia and Dutch and South Africa. So they have quite a great team up there.
All right.
Yeah, and this is part of the building process. You know what I mean? No one gets to build a program at the top from jump. You have to go through, and then maybe the next time they compete. You know what I mean? It's baby steps for us to get to a high level. So kudos to these ladies, and we're down behind them. Can you remind us where exactly is the CAC game?
I have to get that information for you before the show, and I couldn't find it right away. But it is, I believe, on June 24th that they travel out. I don't want to say the incorrect name, so I won't.
Okay.
But some of our players are still away, and we don't have our full group just yet. But yep, they'll be leaving very soon, and they have the last game against Cal Bears tonight at the National Stadium. So if anyone wants to come out and cheer them on and wish them luck.
Let's do it, Bermuda.
In other news, June 1st, as you guys mentioned already, marks the start of hurricane season. This year, the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration predicts between 12 to 17 named storms with winds of at least 39 miles per hour. And of those storms, they predict 5 to 9 could develop into hurricanes containing winds of up to 75 miles per hour or higher. So the Minister of National Security, Michael Weeks, cautions the island to be prepared, saying anything can happen. We have learned many lessons in the past about underestimating storms.
I just hope for a very quiet summer, as most people should be hoping for.
Yeah.
Now, closing out my news, as we know, Harbor Nights is back on. And one of the vendors is the Loquat Shop. It is a retail clothing line with Bermuda textile prints on their pieces. The founder is a Bermudian, Jordan Carey, has recently returned home to Bermuda to be the artist in residence at Masterworks Museum. For April, May, and June, he'll be opening a solo show at the museum tomorrow, June 2nd. He works mainly with kites, which he says to him is like the canvas of Bermuda. And the delicate work it takes to make the intricate pieces that he has kind of takes to account like a metaphor of the life of a day-to-day Bermudian. It's very delicate. It's very hard to put these pieces together on this kite. So a lot of it incorporates the curved mirrors or the curved mirrors on the bikes and cars as well. So I'm going to play this little small clip for you of our conversation, which he talks in detail about his prints, but also pay attention to what he says at the end about his metaphor with using the curved mirrors of bikes and the curved mirrors of cars on Bermuda's roads.
And the blue in the church is tissue paper.
Yep.
And the white in the church is tissue paper.
It's all tissue paper. I have a lot of tissue paper.
This is like, that's really impressive.
Yeah, thank you.
The tree is tissue paper. So that's a lot. See, and again, you have to be so delicate putting layers on top of each other, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You sort of can't really take it personally because I might just have to make a leaf 3 times in order to actually get it stuck onto the thing, because once it's wet, I mean, it's so much more fragile. So there's definitely a lot of trial and error and doing things over and over. So
that is, how long does it take you to make a kite like that? That one?
This one?
Yeah, how long did it took?
I don't know, a couple days. You know.
So yeah,
I will say that the gentleman that died in the hit and run has been on my mind a lot while making, and a big reason for that is because when it happened, I forgot what it's like to be in Bermuda when a tragedy strikes like that, and how you're gonna meet like 5 people that day who knew him well, and how heavy that is, and having it feel so intimate. And I mean, that's what I'm talking about. It's like we live in this beautiful space with, so many beautiful people, and then we're not taking enough of a step to prevent that kind of tragedy from happening, or at least it feels that way when something like that happens.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's so right. And it's just amazing how people and artists are inspired and what they connect with to keep them going. But what he said so right is, tragedy happens in Bermuda, and you legit will bump into at least 5 people who are connected in some way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And multiply it when you go to social media.
Yeah, indeed.
As well. And so I'm going to close out my news with the weather. I know we have a really important topic coming up next and many questions to be asked in that one too. So for today, the overcast is rainy with possibly heavier rain in the afternoon, and we have a high of 77. So again, not looking like great days. May is not really putting up some really good days for us. So be careful on those roads and just, keep wrapped up.
Continuing that May weather into June, folks, but let's just hope that the tropics stay quiet. Larry, what you got days of the year for us?
Today is, and it's related to Bermuda, World Reef Awareness Day. Join the reef revolution and become a hero for our ocean friends. We have tons of reefs we all know about. I was actually able to take many groups of kids to free dive and snorkel out at North Rock or Gibbets Island and different places. And, we have to protect our reefs. And it's just amazing what we really know and we're educated about it. So let's do something for World Reef Awareness Day.
Yeah, I think Bermuda's done an awesome job in that respect. The parrotfish law, back when I've never tasted parrotfish, but I heard it's really delicious. But we'll never get to experience that. But we're benefiting from it in great better ways by protecting the environment. Maya, thank you so much for the report, folks. We've got Dennis Lister III, the chairman of the Road Safety Council. Again, as Maya has been reporting, we have a problem on our roads. The Road Safety Council, we've got some questions for them. What are they doing to help road safety in 2023? Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Dennis Lister III, the chairman of the Road Safety Council. Maya, have a wonderful day.
You too, guys.
All righty, stick with us.
People's ACW, located at King Edward VII Memorial Hospital, carries over-the-counter medicines, toys, cards, and even toiletries. Our knowledgeable staff are there whether you're at emergency, visiting family, or a member of BHB staff, to show you our best even when you're feeling your worst. People's ACW, we're here for you.
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
Mom's celebrating her 70th birthday next month. Have you noticed her age is catching up with her?
Yeah. Plus, she's having a hard time getting up and around like she's used to. I would sure hate to see her fall.
At Medical House Limited, we can help make life situations easier. We have electric beds, motorized scooters, bath stools, walkers, you name it.
Mom's been real good to us. We'll get her birthday and Christmas gifts from Medical House.
Medical House has relocated next to the Dandytown Field, number 6 Bakery Lane, Pembroke. Telephone 292-3622.
Welcome back to the Big Show. Larry Marshall Jr., myself, I'm Jamel Hartman. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House Lindo's, and People's Pharmacy. Folks, please don't forget to subscribe on our website, thedailyhour.com. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we continue to do our part to improve our community. Without further ado, let's bring in our guest for the day. We have the chairman of the Road Safety Council, Dennis Lister III. Give him a warm TDH welcome. Oops, that's the wrong one, sir. I'm sorry. That's not you. They like to cheer you on. I'm sorry. It happens sometimes. Morning, sir. How are you?
Morning there, Mr. Hartman and Mr. Marshall, and to your listening audience. No worries. I like the applause any way I can get it.
Oh yeah. No. I got you. So real quickly, just tell the audience, how long have you been the chairman of the Road Safety Council, and in this role, what is your role as chairman, I should say?
Okay. I've been the chairman since 2019, let me take it back, 2018, January 2018. However, I've been a member on the Word Safety Council going back to 2011. And during that time, for a year, I served as deputy chairman, and then I became chairman. So I've been a member on it for over a decade. What I would say to your question, the role of the Word Safety Chairman. The Word Safety Council is a government mandated body which is there to recommend and suggest on all matters word safety for the government. We don't have any power to make anything happen other than us running campaigns, initiatives, and things to promote and raise awareness for word safety. But we don't, as I said, we cannot, we can suggest and recommend laws or amendments to laws, but we cannot put into effect a law. So as the chairman of the Word Safety Council, as again, we are here to educate, promote, raise awareness, and not just ourselves, working with partners and community stakeholders. So that's the role of the chairman of the Word Safety Council.
All right, got you. And make note of that, folks, because again, it's really about creating awareness. You can make recommendations to have legislation changed and policies and the like. So you recently stated, if I'm not mistaken, through Maya, or I saw it somewhere, but you recently stated that you lacked manpower, right? What is needed to make the organization effective in reaching its goals?
Okay, I wouldn't say we lack manpower. When that question was asked, what it was in regards to is that as a board or council under government, we again were set up with the same structure as any of the other government boards. So each year, at the end of the year, around October, anyone who's interested in serving on a government board, or specifically the Word Safety Council board, you can submit an application through the government website, and then the minister goes through and selects who to sit on the board. Of those, we have ex officios, so they are representatives of government departments. On the Word Safety Council, we have a representative from the Bermuda Police Service. We actually have two of them. We have a representative from the BFS, the Bermuda Fire Service, representation from the Ministry of Public Works Word Division. We have representation from the Corporation of Hamilton, and there are other times might be other different representations of government bodies. So those are the ex officios, and then out of that, at present we have 7 council members. So those are myself as the chairman, deputy chairman, and then we have 5. There's no limit on the amount of members of the council. At present, we have 7. So we have 5 members, and then the deputy chairman and myself. Also, we have the technical officer, who is the word safety officer, and that person is the person I would say keeps the Word Safety Council going, because they do a lot of the work. That is their full-time, day-to-day job. Myself as the chairman, I also have a full-time 9 to 5, so I share my time in that role and many of the other roles I do. With that said, when we look each year to bring on new members, there are some areas that we like to look at with people that have expertise in to help us in our efforts to promote and raise awareness. So those are areas, someone that has interest or is in the field of graphic design, web design, person with a legal background, marketing, things like that, because those are areas when the Word Safety Council, we have our website, we have our social media platforms, so we need persons with expertise to help us be as effective as we can using those platforms. Likewise, when it comes to marketing, we have to go out, do a lot of marketing and promotion, so we look for persons with there's expertise to help us. And then again, when it comes to in the legal aspect, one of the initiatives that the Word Safety Council is looking to push this year is that, and I did want to preface all of my comments while we jump right into the questions, but I can always come back to that. But and I say every life loss is a huge loss to our island. Every life loss matters. But with the most recent fatality of Marco Warren, enough has been said about his impact, but I think we as a community have to say enough is enough, and we have to now as I mentioned in Parliament a few weeks ago, the last session, that we now have to fight to get our words back. And so we are looking to bring other new legislation or amend some legislation. And so we're looking to sit down, go through to see what we as Word Safety Council, what we can bring, something that is going to have some impact on our words. And with that, we do need someone that has legal expertise or someone that's in the legal industry, because we are not, as I said myself, my background is in finance and banking, other members insurance. We're looking for people that have a background with law and in the legal industry, because they can help us when it comes to this legislation and things like that. So when you say manpower, it's more of having those persons in those key specific areas who can help us be as effective as we can. And so just to answer your question again, for anyone listening, if you are in any of those backgrounds or you have a passion or interest in word safety, when the time comes, which is normally in October, November, and government advertises for people to sit on government boards, if you have an interest or if you're in one of those areas and you would like to help, please put in an application to, whether it's the Word Safety Council, that's my interest, or if it's other councils, but specifically for me, the Word Safety Council. And that way, you can, there's a chance, not everyone that submits an application gets on, but there's a chance that you can. And so you look for people in those areas to help us in our efforts to push the message of word safety in Bermuda.
So I don't want to get into the politics of it all, and I don't want to, because we're here to talk about road safety. But my only challenge with what you just said at the end is, look, we've got an arrogant group of people who will govern our country. So sadly, some of them, they're your colleagues. These people appoint friends and family to positions, which has been proven, right? So when you do that, you're not getting the best people. You're not getting lawyers who may want to apply and be on boards to be on these boards. They're picking people who they like, who are friends, who may not be interested. So to me, from the and I can give you proof and names if we'd like, but there's no need. My point is, I think that's where we have setbacks in these spaces. That's where we don't get the people we want, because people, it's like a situation I dealt with in the US. I said, well, there's no black people in these positions. Oh, well, they don't apply for the jobs. Well, you're not going to get people wanting to apply to be on boards if they know that they're going to be overlooked because they're not part of that friends and family anyway. So, you may have lawyers who may have wanted to be involved, but they know that a certain minister is not going to appoint them. Why waste their time? That's a problem, a deeper problem, not today's conversation, but I just had to say that we're probably losing valuable people simply due to the fact of who's governing and making the decisions. Because I'll tell you what, I can name 5 people who watch this show who might make great people and be assets, but I highly doubt they would put their names forward simply because they speak out, right? And have opinions. So I think we need to get over that hump, and then we can actually give people like yourself the support. I want to just transition to the collisions. So we've had a lot of collisions. Maya has done an awesome job of reporting on this show of the amount of collisions that we've had. What do you think, Chairman, is contributing? We just had a conversation about creating a more sober community, right? But what's the data or statistics telling you that's contributing to the amount of collisions that we're having in Bermuda these days?
I'm gonna preface that with what I was initially hoping to preface, was I did listen to the earlier topic of creating a sober community, and I did want to chime in because I did have some points where I said, it's a different topic, and I'll just focus on road safety. But what I will say to that is, the words are a reflection of society. And I say that because everything you guys mentioned, the earlier topic of alcohol abuse, well, not just alcohol, substance abuse, traumas, mental illness, what we see in the community is played out on our words, because our words are not safe from all of that. If someone has a mental issue, mental health, if they have suffered from traumas, they live every day, but they also get in our words every day, and those traumas can play out. And you mentioned addiction. Some people, and there might have to be some studies done into it, but there, as you said, you can be addicted to anything. There are some people that might be addicted to speeding, but you wouldn't know until the actual analysis and assessments are done. But they just got on our road and they like to speed. Why? I don't know. I just like to do it. So, the roads are a reflection of society, and if we can address a lot of the ills in society, we can that would see it have knock-on impact with our roads, and our roads we can hopefully start seeing it, change for the better. But I say that to say, the Road Safety Council for this year, our theme is changing minds, changing behaviors. And that even goes to the earlier topic about the sober community. A lot of the comments and that were spoken about of how to change drinking in front of young children and things like that. It's about changing our mindsets and our behaviors. If we can, and it's a hard fight, but we have to start somewhere. And every little bit that we gain, we have to, push that to make bigger gains. So changing mindsets and changing behaviors, that's what the road safety is about, because we know, and it was mentioned earlier, drinking is a big culture in Bermuda. What I can say is since 2018 and the introduction of roadside sobriety checkpoints, we had seen a change in that behavior. The numbers were trending down, plus the behavior of people knowing, okay, if I go out to drink, there's a roadside sobriety checkpoint out tonight, I have to change. And this is for a further conversation, but I can give a bit of it is people ask, why do they announce the roadside sobriety checkpoints? Because it's about changing behaviors. If they don't announce it, you just go out, oh, I got caught. But because they announce it, it's like, hey, I'm purposely making a conscious decision, oh, I'm going to get in my car, drink and drive, and get caught. So it's about changing behavior. So with the introduction of them, we saw the numbers start trending downward, and that behavior change in the promotion of designated driver initiative from the Road Safety Council, people were picking up on that, going out, getting a minibus or taxi, different things like that. What I can say is COVID hit, and it did make a change. And the change in that is that our mindsets during COVID and coming out of COVID, we've had a lot of mental health issues. People just want relief. We've been locked down for so long, things like that. And so again, our words are a reflection of society. That mental relief and stress that people needed, they got on our words and it played out on our words. And we saw the higher numbers of incidents and things like that. So now it's about reining all of that back in. And as I said, our slogan and theme for this year is changing minds and behaviors. And how do we do that? The Road Safety Council is, again, looking at legislation to change that and also other initiatives to help push changing our behaviors.
Yeah, interesting point. How does the Road Safety Council use the statistics to improve safety on Bermuda's roads?
I can say we don't collect our own statistics. We rely on two sources, the Bermuda Police Service and the Bermuda Hospital Boards. The Bermuda Police Service, we get their statistics are collisions or any road traffic offenses. The Bermuda Hospital Boards, their statistics are people that have been in an accident and they go to the hospital and it's recorded at the emergency room. So different times their statistics might differ because they're getting they're collecting two different sets of data per se. So we got our data from those two resources. I can say this is that we are trying to do better this year. That's one of our goals in using those statistics. As I said, we're looking to bring some sort of, whether it's new legislation or amending some present legislation. So we're going to be using those statistics to drive our focus. So that's where we're at those initial stages right now, looking to have a meeting next week to drive forward with this initiative. And then we can, as time goes on, have something more concrete to work with. But we are looking to use the statistics to drive this initiative of bringing or amending some legislation for this year.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to see that we're going in that direction. Jamel, you want to follow up question?
Oh, no, I just wanted to go into the road conditions as people have been asking. Many have stated that the road conditions don't help. What role do you believe this plays in the number of collisions, and what's being done to improve the roads?
I can't. First of all, I'll acknowledge that yes, that our roads are not in a suitable state. They are in certain areas as dangerous or hazardous, that can cause or be a factor in accidents. I can't say to the statistics of how many accidents have a factor of the roads. I can't say, but just driving around, you can see that you have to dodge potholes. Certain areas of the road are so bumpy, you have to drive over the yellow line and things like that. So, I can't give the statistics, but I can see that they can play a factor in some way. To the state of our roads, even before the rain in the last week and a half, that has added to opening up potholes. I know government has a plan. We see a lot of trenching going on, and we expect at least for the next 18 months, maybe at the least more trenching. Part of the plan is to, as they complete an area of trenching, to repave it, and so we can have a smooth surface. So what I'll say to that is we know it can be a factor. I don't have the statistics on it, and government is working. It is a plan. Unfortunately, as this is life, things can happen, things can arise that knock us off our plan. So government does have a plan. They're working through it to get the trenching done and the the underlying underground utilities and things like that, and then we can look to repaving our roads and having them back. It unfortunately we have to live with for this time being, and that's again, hopefully it can help people slow down. In these conditions you shouldn't be speeding, especially on wet days. Unfortunately, people aren't heeding to that, but we have to encourage people. The road conditions are just as dangerous as, in some cases, driving while distracted or, driving while intoxicated, because they can cause you to do something, have to avoid a pothole or something, and you might have to swerve into the other lane. So we encourage people to drive extra care and caution on our roads while they're in the state that they are in.
Yeah. As Jamal said,
go ahead, Mr. Marshall.
Sorry, as Jamal stated earlier, our colleague Maya has done tremendous work on trying to get road safety awareness and stuff like that. She recently reported, which I found very interesting, that a majority of the collisions, serious collisions and fatal collisions, take place in Southampton. What does this say to you as the chairman of the Road Safety Council?
Can you repeat that last part again?
What does this say to you as the chairman of the Road Safety Council?
I have noticed that also in the years I've done and looked at the statistics, because we do, as the BPS does provide location breakdown of they have a very detailed collection of statistics when it comes to accidents, so they can say what type of vehicles, how many vehicles, different things like that, and location. And that also stuck out to me where certain parishes, and Southampton is one that has a higher rate of accidents. I can't say there is any. I don't know why. Maybe, and one of the factors that I did come up with is because Southampton is actually our longest parish in length from east to west, and so maybe because that has the longest length of road, that it may be a factor in why so many accidents in Southampton parish. That's one thing that I narrowed it down to. I don't, that's what I can think of. I don't know if anyone else has any other reasons or suggestions why. But that's probably what I put it down to. It's that it has the longest length of road that people drive through, especially people coming out of the Westland, in the mornings and going in the evenings. It's a lot of length of parachute drive, and accidents do happen. And myself, I live in Somerset, so on a daily, I hear, or you're passing, the emergency vehicles on the roads coming in the West End. So that's what it could be down to. That's the only thing I can come down to. It might be other reasons why Southampton has the highest numbers of collisions in that parish.
All right, look, we got a lot of comments and questions from the
audience. Question, can I just, I did want to comment on something Maya did mention in her earlier part, in regards to accountability of establishments if a person leaves there intoxicated and they get into an accident. So that is actually on the law books already. Part of the tips bartending program, so all bartenders have to be certified through the tips bartending program. Part of that is recognizing when a client at your establishment is too drunk, and you know when to cut them off and things like that. So that program already exists, and bartenders have to be certified and follow that. On the other end, if a person leaves an establishment intoxicated and they get in an accident, and during the investigation, it can be proven that they left this establishment, that establishment can be fined under law. And I believe that's through the liquor licensing association. And there has been instances in the past where entities, establishments have been fined or had to lose the license for a period of time. So that is already on the books. It already happens. The thing is that if a person gets in an accident, most times they won't admit to driving under the influence of alcohol. And if they don't admit to it, it's hard for the investigation to say, oh, this is where that person came from. But if that person does admit and say, okay, I was drinking, I left this so and so place, and if the investigation goes that far and the investigation finds out that the person was drunk before they left, the bartenders didn't do nothing, or the bartenders kept providing them with drinks, then it goes that next level to accountability for that establishment. But there's already on our books, and as I said, it's just up to if a person admits to drinking and driving, and where did they last come from as an establishment.
Got you. All right, so let's go to the audience. Good information there. We got a lot.
Yeah.
Farrah Palacios says, I would like to know what grassroots options have they looked at, something outside of the board, and what is going on with the cameras? Are they fixed? Can they be used? Well, I remember years ago as well, I don't know what happened, but there was something like not speed trap, but something where if a car that wasn't insured or something. What's happened with that? And is there the possibility of like cameras? What can you give us any updates on this?
Okay, so it's two questions. The first part of the question I asked is regards to doing something outside the board grassroots. What I would say is that the Road Safety Council does a lot of partnering and working with our community stakeholders and other partners. A lot of it might not make it into the public domain, but we have a lot of engagement with community roots, grassroots entities and things like that. Some things that get off the ground, some things don't. So we do a lot. As of right now, we are having a campaign with Auto Solutions. It's a Save Lives, Slow Down campaign. It's just in the initial stages. We're hoping to launch it later on in June now, later on in June. So that's one going on. But we do a lot of engaging and partnering with community stakeholders, especially the grassroots level. In regards to the second part of the question, cameras, that is outside of our remit. That solely comes under the Ministry of National Security. So as was mentioned in the House of Assembly, the last sitting, that the Minister of National Security said that they are at, and I wouldn't say an advanced stage, but they're still in the process of, looking at bringing a new CCT camera system, whether that has license plate recognition or speed cameras, things like that. That will come out further with more updates. So the Ministry of National Security is looking at the CCT camera and how we can have a new updated one. To the last part that you asked about, Mr. Hartman, in regards to they were the TCD, they were able to scan to see if your car was licensed and things like that. I want to say that that system is still in operation. You do hear from time to time that persons still get caught for being caught with driving without their car insured or license and things like that. So that was solely for TCD for those purposes, not the speed cameras and things like that.
Alrighty. Karen Simmons asking, does the Road Safety Council work/collaborate with organizations like nonprofit youth organization Shift, which teaches social emotional learning to primary and middle school age students?
What I would say to that, Ms. Simmons, is there are more organizations out there than that we know about. So if organizations, it's probably sometimes easier for them to reach out to us. We get that all the time. We do work with nonprofit organizations, Focus Counseling, which deals with alcohol and substance abuse. We've partnered with them for the last 2 years. We've done presentations with them. We go into the schools. We've also done presentations with different organizations. One we did last year, we went to Belco. Belco has a large fleet of drivers, so they wanted us to come in and talk about road safety. And we brought along our partner Focus, and they talked about how driving on the influence impacts and things like that. So we do, as I said, there's more out there than we know of. So if they reach out to us, we are glad to have a meeting and discuss how we can work with them.
Alrighty. Kelly Clark Madeira says available and reliable transport is important. I woke up, saw a tweet this morning. There were people on Front Street waiting for cabs some hour this morning after leaving establishments. Can you speak to us? Does the Road Safety Council have any way of making recommendations, working with maybe the person was suggesting ride sharing? Would ride sharing be something that you can vouch for? Like what role does the Road Safety Council play in improving available transport and public transportation at times when maybe some of these accidents and collisions are taking place?
First off, I would say that is part of looking at what legislation, if any, we can bring to mandate certain things. But outside of that, we also do our transportation plan initiative, and what that is, it's encouraging. It's specifically, the transportation plan is specific for event organizers. If you put on large events, to have transportation to get your event goers to and from your event safely, because we know they're going to be consuming alcohol. But an extension of that, what we're looking to also introduce is CARTA, which is the Center for Alcohol and Drug Abuse. They've been pushing for the last decade or so their Let Us Drive program, where on Friday nights they have minibuses or taxis available to take people home. The Road Safety Council, we're looking to sort of build and expand an initiative like that is being able to provide late night transportation, whether it be the minibuses or do taxis for people to get home late hours. The buses start running at 12. Taxis might not be as reliable. So we're looking, and that's some of our partnerships with different entities who have a stake in the game that would like to, again, help provide this opportunity or option for people to get home safely. So we're looking into things like that and how to, again, have reliable transportation to get people home late nights.
Rosalind, Maya Palacio first, she said, can you share the recent BHB stats, or are they shared on your website for people to see?
I don't have the recent Bermuda Hospital Board statistics on our website. We probably don't have the most recent ones uploaded as yet. We would have to look to do that. But no, I can't share the recent ones right now, as I don't have them with me, or I don't know them offhand either.
All right, Rosalind Pham is asking, perhaps a survey of behavior prior to accidents may be helpful. Do you guys do any kind of surveys like that?
So again, it goes back to manpower. The Road Safety Council, we really just don't have the ability to. We can do online surveys and things like that, but to actually go out and ask people that have been involved in accidents, we don't have the resource and manpower to do that. So that's why we rely on the BPS, and they provide stats. And they do have, as I said, they collect very detailed stats, even as to factors leading up to, was the person distracted driving using the cell phone while they're driving? Did the focus got taken away from something else? So a lot of that is collected in the statistics from the BPS. Alrighty. But we can try and do a job to go out and on our social medias, collect some data, do a survey.
Yeah. Charles H. Jeffers II says, does the Road Safety Council work with the Department of Public Works to improve road conditions in certain areas that are high rates of incidents?
Yes. As I mentioned, we do have a representative from the Public Works Road Division sit on our council. So we do have direct engagement with them. It's back and forth. They update us on road works and things that are going on. And we, again, when we notice things or even get suggestions, recommendations from the public, we mention them to them, and they do their best to address them, those matters or issues in a timely manner. So we do work with the Ministry of Public Works.
You're a popular guy, or this is a very important conversation because we've got a lot of time.
I do have to jump off soon.
We're just going to get through as many, but if honestly, if you could be more concise in your answers, then we can get through as many as possible. So Maya Palacio, she's just asking, the other day, your social media posted about the flooding that occurs around Bakery Lane, stating we know where it floods, avoid instead of avoid. What's the plan to fix Bakery Lane specifically? Like, is this something that your team would make recommendations for?
That would certainly come under the Ministry of Public Works. But again, not those that sit on the real estate council, our expertise might not be in that area. Again, I'm not an expert in road structure, road, things like that. So we would have to research and things like that, but that certainly falls under the Ministry of Public Works. What I can say to it is that ultimately it probably comes down to financing, because that whole area of Bakery Lane, Mills Creek is originally was swamp marshland, which was drained to put all of that in there. So by nature, that area is going to always flood, because that is the purpose of that, the natural purpose of it. So it will come down ultimately to huge investment, whether it's some sort of system that has to be built in underground, raised to ground, I don't know. But as I said, the nature of that area of land is to flood because it's low lying. So, we're working against Mother Nature in that instance. And any resolution to fixing it would have to be heavy investment of not just government, but probably the private industries in that area also.
All right. One last question for you, and you can go back through YouTube and answer questions when you have a chance. But Ebony Souza, she says, I voiced concerns over the lack of pedestrian crossings on Parsons Road after my son was struck on his way to CBA. Can you shed any light on when that may be addressed? Now, again, do you make suggestions on like, okay, we know this as accidents, but people are speeding, let's put speed bumps here and stuff like that?
Yeah. So I actually do recall, Ms. Souza, your email coming through, and we did raise that to the representative of the Ministry of Public Works. What it is actually policy through the department, and it's not just with crosswalks, it's even with streetlights. They have, I can't remember the exact distance. So like streetlights are every 100 meters or so. I can't remember the exact distance. With pedestrians, on that stretch of road, I know there's a crosswalk just at the playground right there. But as I said, the real estate council, myself, I do not have expertise in this area. I can do research, but we leave it up to those whose job it is. And through their policies, it's every so often distance, there's crosswalks. And unfortunately, in some areas that are maybe more heavily residential, there's more areas where people cross at. But when you actually have to implement or install a crosswalk, you can't do it at every point where people cross, if you understand what I'm saying, because then it becomes a hindrance to the flow of traffic. The purpose of traffic is to continue at a steady flow, and you don't want to be constantly breaking it up, even in a high residential area. That's why you would have to encourage and force people for lack of a better word, to use that one crossing point instead of having multiple ones. And so that's what I would say to the crosswalks. In regards to speed bumps, we got a lot of requests to install speed bumps in certain areas of the roads. Again, there is a policy through the emergency services of speed bumps and on being on main roads. So the main roads, Middle Road, Harbor Road, South Shore, North Shore, Palmetto Road, Parsons Road, there's the main public roads. People ask to get speed bumps in all these different locations. But we also have to remember, for the emergency services vehicles, they have to travel at high rates of speed. And for them to be slowing down for speed bumps every time, or, taking that risk of not slowing down, that's even dangerous. But it's a hindrance for the emergency service vehicles of having speed bumps repeatedly in different locations. On private roads, smaller roads, you will get them. You can get a request in there, come out, look at it. But on the main roads, there's the reason why we get requests for speed bumps in different locations, but they can't be in every location.
Valid point. Before you head out, just any message to people who use the words the roads, Bermuda's roads daily. Any advice or just positive message to them as you depart today?
as always, my always message is again, remember that we all share our words with all other road users. So when you're on the roads, drive with care and caution, look out for your fellow drivers. Always again, drive at the correct speed and don't drink and drive. Those are main causes of accidents: distracted driving, speeding, and driving under the influence. So if we can reduce those, and it all comes down to personal accountability, being responsible when you get on the roads and holding yourself accountable is what we'll see. And overall, is our message is changing behaviors. Please, everyone, find ways that you can change your behavior when you're on our roads to help make our roads safer for all road users.
Thank you so much, sir. What I will say is, I'd love to see more social media, communication from the Road Safety Council. I didn't know it was Road Safety Council week. We have a very dedicated audience. We didn't know until Maya told us. No one contacted us. No, we didn't get any emails or anything. Not putting you on the spot. I'm just saying, like, we may not be white-owned media, but we may not be legacy media, but we do exist, and we have multiple channels that we can share the messaging. So ignoring one set of media doesn't help the cause. So my hope is that if you lack manpower, you utilize those that may be able to help you get the messages out. One thing I'll say about this audience, I think they're a very responsible group of people. They understand the role we play. They understand that it's not on you, it's not on the government, it's not on laws and policies, it's on all of us. So, but we can't do our part if we don't know what you all is trying to do. We can't help you accomplish your goals. So please keep us in mind going forward so that we can at least hold each other accountable when things are happening to try to improve our roads and our overall community. So thank you, sir, for coming by, and please don't be a stranger.
Welcome for having me, and to all again to your listening audience. I wish you all a good day today, and we will definitely take you again under consideration when we do our events to invite you guys out as a media platform.
Thank you so much. Have a great one.
You have a good one.
All right, Dennis the third, folks. Road Safety Chairman. Please give a thumbs up, a love, a like if you appreciated the information, found it helpful. We're going to take a quick break, come back, wrap it up. Also, do the daily play. Stick with us. Do not go anywhere.
If you haven't been to ER Fisheries in a while, it's time to hop in the car, drive east, and come check out what we have to offer. ER Fisheries and Foods is a Bermuda-based food company that sells a variety of food products to local customers. We are, of course, known for high-quality food items, including specialty meats and seafood, but we offer so much more. We have evolved from a small community-driven ordering window to a modern freezer front with easily accessible products. Our newly revamped store offers customers a top-tier shopping experience, and we also offer delivery. Regardless of your preferences or diet, we have something for everyone, including chicken, many varieties of seafood, pork, lamb, beef, plant-based items, fruit and veggies, bread, dairy, and grocery items. So come check us out for your specialty grocery needs. ER Fisheries is open Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. at 134 Marginal Wharf, Southside St. David's.
All right. Thanks again to Dennis the third for joining us today. Again, folks, if you appreciated the conversation information, give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Thanks again to the BAC group of companies, Medicals, Lindos, and People's Pharmacy for ensuring we can have these important conversations with all of you. It's time for the Daily Play, brought to you by Bermuda Trivia, now available at stores throughout Bermuda. Follow Bermuda Trivia on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok to find out why it's Bermuda's favorite trivia game. Larry, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, it's a name that plays today in honor of the NBA Finals, which begin tonight between the Denver Nuggets and Miami Heat. All right, NBA finalist Nikola Jokic is from where?
Serbia.
All right, I mean, he got it fast, but that means we're getting out of here faster. All right. Nikola Jokic, he is one of the greatest basketball players in the league. Doesn't look like it. He is a player that will fool you. You'll think just some guy at the bar chilling, and he is an athlete. And it tells you athletes come in all forms. Let's talk about today. Creating a more sober community, and obviously the conversation with Dennis Lister III. The final.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a difficult conversation. I think sometimes we have free flowing ones, but a more serious one, I should say. And I think both kind of intertwine, and it's what the Dennis Lister there said lastly was about personal responsibility. Creating a more sober society. If you make the effort to do so and seek out the help, I think that's beneficial for all. As far as the usage of the roads and what we talked about with the road safety council, personal use again. I myself, like I said, trying to. I don't overtake as much anymore, and I know my next one is the distracted driving. If the phone goes off, Bendy, pull over to the side. So I'm making a more conscious effort about doing things. These issues are so macro. It's not one solution because it's not just one problem. But what we can control is self, and I'm looking to focus on self when it comes to these things, and I would encourage others to do so also.
Yeah, I'll say this much. I've been there again. I'll keep saying it. We're not without flaws.
Yeah.
My oldest goddaughter. I mean, I was drunk, overly drunk. I was in a bad state at her christening, right? Over 20 something years ago. But I can admit that I was part of a problem at that time. We've got to find better ways to celebrate in a manner where we can enjoy and remember, and don't put us in a space where we're putting ourselves and others at harm. We have to address the trauma in our community. This means seeking help, being unafraid to have the resources to offer the help that people in our community need. As far as the conversation with Dennis Lister III, I appreciated it. I want to see more people on boards that belong there. When I say that belong there, he told you he needs someone with legal expertise. How do we know a person with legal expertise doesn't want to be on that board, but because they've applied for other boards and been, someone else has been chosen over them, they have no interest? We have got to do something about the way we are putting people in positions to help the greater community. That's the bottom line. I believe there are people who want to help and add value and improve our community in these spaces, but we can't turn them off before they even put their name forward.
Yeah.
There are too many people putting their names down, sitting on boards to build a resume, to achieve something for personal gain. We need more selfless people doing more that's going to benefit not just them, but the greater community. But to Hilaire's point, the last thing he said is one of the biggest issues, if not the issue, and that's personal responsibility. I always say you can't legislate love, right? No amount of legislation is going to fix our problem until we deal with the problems within. I put on social media the other day, no amount of Jesus, Allah, or whatever you believe can save you or is going to help you unless you're ready to help you. You got some daily inspiration for us, Larry?
I do. And this comes from an unknown author, and our daily inspiration is brought to us by ER Fisheries. My recovery must come first so that everything I love in life does not have to come last.
Like that one. Folks, don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Thanks again to the BAC group of companies, Medical House Lindos, and People's Pharmacy for ensuring that we're able to do this with you on a daily basis. As always, we appreciate you, we love you, and we thank you for making us part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back to do this again with you tomorrow. He's Larry Marshall Jr. I'm Jamal Hartman. Please do make it a safe and a great day. We are out. Peace. You all thought Maya was coming back. Nah, we're out. Peace.